see what we got here. Greetings, one and all. Chris Gordon here, new Pragmatic. It's time for the feedback loop. It's relatively light Wednesday, but that's actually good because today we are kicking off. We're kicking off something we haven't done in a while. We actually haven't done this since November, and that is the Portfolio Potluck is back. Portfolio Potluck, in case you are uninitiated or maybe you've arrived since November, it's basically where I throw open the doors and I say to designers who aren't actually part of the new Pragmatic nation, new Pragmatic family, I basically say to them, hey, you know what? You could use a portfolio review. Why don't you bring your work on in? So this morning, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little pre-work on that because there are a lot of things that you can do that go beyond the portfolio. To research people that are applying for a job, and that's kind of what I'm looking at here. I'm looking at, okay, when somebody submits their portfolio, what else does that hiring manager do? What else does that person that's comparing the options do? So we're going to look at that, but also James really pushing ahead has immediately jumped back in with another round of work to look at. So I'm excited to see what we have there, and I'm just gonna jump in. I'm just gonna jump in because there's no reason to hold off on this. So let's. I can't actually change screens with a beverage in my hand. Not that it's that kind of beverage, folks. It's way too early in the morning, but let's get this underway. All right. So I'm actually going to start with James. Let's start with paying customers first. So James, hey, glad you were able to use the feedback. You fixed the segmentation slider. You updated the button bar, active and inactive. You added some more padding, basically. Added some more. So yesterday was all about let's get some air in this thing. And what's weird, what a lot of people may not realize if they saw the first version of your work, is you had already added air. You had added air into it from V1. So V2 had air, but it didn't have, it had half as much air as we wanted it to have for it to feel like a modern iOS application. So we needed to get some more air in there for it to feel like it was at home. You added a new home view for Subscribed Podcast. All right, so you've taken it and you've pushed it forward a little bit. As far as the line work goes for the buttons, I made it that way to keep it in line with the way Twitter currently styles their inactive buttons. Should I keep that styling since it's a concept app around Twitter? Well, it's completely fine to have inspiration from a particular brand. I've been a fan of Twitter. I remember I had there was a guy out of Australia who made a quote responsive. He made a mobile specific site that was a version of Twitter, and you could save it to your home screen because there wasn't an app store yet. That's how long I've been hanging around with Twitter. I've been around with Twitter since before there was an app store. God, I'm old. Anyway, that would be 13 years at this. No, 12 years. We're 12 years in on the app store at this point. I think 2008. 2007 phone was released. 2008 app store came. I changed jobs right around then because I knew the app store was coming. I want to be an app designer. What do you mean you want to be an app designer? There's no app store. There will be. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump in. All right. Well, that's Bergen, and we're gonna look at that. Not Bergen. That's Tegel, and that's me. That's a really weird place for me to stop that image. Oh, it's over here. Look at that. Look at that. Let's go ahead and take a peek in on this. So, as usual, let's see. I want to zoom out really quick to see what we got. Okay, so James, good job. You're using your pages properly. I appreciate that, man. Oh, God, do I appreciate that. As a matter of fact, I would suggest that you take the old versions, which we'll just take a quick look at the old versions. The old versions are over here. Take these old versions and put those on a page that says prior. All right, so these are prior to 323. Then you have 323, and then you'll have 324, which is where we are now. Fantastic work. All right, I'm gonna turn that off. I'm almost certain there is a way to hide guides, just because I want to hide them all at the same time, but I don't recall what it is. So I'm going to have to go through. And let's see here. You said you added what page did you add? I'm going to rearrange my pages here a bit. You said you added a new home view. All right, let's start with the home view. Why not? I see podcast player. I don't know. We'll start here. This feels like the right one. And that's all I want to do. I just want to turn it off. Okay. So this is beginning to feel correct. I'm curious if this view... Oh, you cut it off. Okay, one thing I would like to see is I would like to see this go off to the edge for your prototype. Here's basically why. Let me hop over into my thing for a second. We have here it is. Scroll. I want to show you scroll examples. I'm actually shooting a video based on what I'm about to show you here. And what I'd like for you to be able to do, if I can put this into prototype mode, is once it loads, I'd love it if your prototype was able to, there it is, was able to do this, okay? And to do this, you have to have more in there for your, so here's like, the area is called top example, and I've got that within a frame, and this frame has 5 rectangles in it, but the frame itself is constricted, okay? And the way that we know it's constricted is if I turn off clip content, you can see that there's more there. So for you, what I'd really like, and I should double check this because it's really odd that would clip right there. I bet you've done this. Okay. So host, 2 times guest. Okay. So you've made a mask, and you don't necessarily need to make a mask. Okay. You need to clip content, and I really do believe that if you could just have it go off to the side. Don't worry about masking it, because when you put clip content on it will mask it. Okay. But that will give you the ability to slide that thing side to side, which is what this is supposed to do. I do think there should be a break between these areas, because let's think about what this is supposed to do. Is this whole thing supposed to slide up? What it feels like is that you have a region that goes side to side, and then you have a region that goes up and down. The way it's designed, I feel like while this may go side to side, this entire region goes up and down. And that's fine. That's completely fine if it's that way. This design doesn't remind me of Twitter, actually. It reminds me of Instagram. This whole paradigm reminds me of Instagram, which still has a segment of space, and it what's interesting is there's typically a label with each of these, like explaining why there is a visual difference between this and this. Um, so think about that. Um, I do think that there's some value into having a little bit of space between these, to indicate, okay, one touch zone versus another. And even if it all scrolls, I get it, but I want to know I want to know what the difference is. Because think about it. If I'm looking at this, you know, I don't necessarily right away know why these are presented differently from these. A label would help. Okay, so that's step one. And then I'd love to see it in prototype mode, being able to just scroll it. And if you've got questions there, just know videos forthcoming, but you may still have questions. Let's hop over here to podcasting pitch, because I can already tell, even with all these crazy grids on, that this still feels lots better. And again, I'm just turning them off. I'm not deleting them. I don't like to delete stuff from students. Um, okay, so there's a couple things I wanted to point out with regard to these individual icons. First of all, I'd really like that, instead of having the one that's larger, I'd like this. I think about these things in terms of, okay, how would I code this? And typically speaking, how I would code this is this would be like a UL, LI, and I probably wouldn't, I would just make them uniform. So something to think about. I know that you have a slightly larger play button, and but hold on to that. The other thing I want to look at, because you brought up, Twitter. I want to actually go look at Twitter. I want to try to reference where you're at up here with it. Box.com weekly. I am curious what happens here when I get the Investor Weekly or the Atlantic, Los Angeles Times. What happens when this gets long? Okay, because this is like suspiciously short. Vox.com just happens to fit. Okay. And I admit, hey, they did a great job of picking up that URL, because, 6 characters. But I'm just suspicious of it. That's where I'm going to leave that. But regarding the icons, let's hop over here to Twitter. You said Twitter is the impetus for this. So let's take a look. Now, in some spaces, like up here, I see the icons the way that you're talking about. Okay, that's very clear. The interesting thing, though, is what I really see is, by the way, Charlene King, she's amazing. What I really see is I see icons that are gray, and then upon selection, they do something. They turn a color. When this is active, when I hover over it, turns a color. So, the question, this feels more aligned with this. Now, when we go to the actual page, so I'm going to go to Charlene's page, because, again, she's cool. Salesforce designer. Hey, thank you, Tiny Tank. So, again, this feed, oh, man, terrible. Yeah, I got a lot of notifications. Come on. There we go. Sorry, my trackpad is a little hinky this morning. Now, here, I get that. You've got something very similar going on here. So, if you were saying, oh, I'm inspired by this, totally get it. You're right. Those, if you're following that design pattern, those should be active. But these down here, I really believe are not falling in line with that. They do activate on hover, right? But there isn't really a corollary for for mobile. Now, one thing I would say is that if you wanted to like make this the anchor that's the trigger, um, then I could see that. However, um, you know, this is where I tend to research like how do the other podcasting apps do it? And for that, I'm going to go over here to, is it Mobbin? Yeah, latest design mobile patterns. And again, the reason we're spending so much time on the visual design of this application is that, James is elevating it for an internship he's going for. And I want to help him push it forward without rethinking the whole thing because he's got to turn the target's like a week away. So with this, what I want to look for is actually I'm just going to go to apps and I'm going to type in podcast. No apps found. iTunes. Really weird. Okay, well that's different. Well, I don't want to. I do not want to have to go through here. Playlist. List. So let's see. See what we get here. We dig into the patterns. Okay, so let's. Not quite what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something that has a lot of controls with it. And this kind of follows the pattern of the grayed out icons if it's not active at that particular moment. This does not follow that. That would be Twitch. Twitch's color is purple, which explains why all their information symbols are purple. But I would suggest diving in and finding similar, how are the apps that are in the space that I'm in doing it for comparative sake. I'm pretty sure Twitter is not a bad place to start, for the record. And actually, I'm curious because you had mentioned. Let's go back over to apps. You'd mentioned specifically Twitter. I have not. No, okay, so Twitter's in here, in Mobbin, which is great because I don't want to go do all these screenshots. So, when we look at this list view, it very much is, kind of. I mean, it's one-to-one. They're using the same design system for their website as they are using for the mobile apps, so that's fine. This is working for me the way it's set up. I do think that making those adjustments, the direction that we were talking about, is in line. I do think like when something has been activated, like the bookmark over here, I think it's fine to do exactly what you've done. The question I have really comes back to up here now, like the arrange. Like I really want to see this setup rethought in that. It seems like we're squeezing this information. This is not that's not a legitimate URL to bank on. And if that gets any longer than 6 characters, you're dead. So unless it's salon.com and vox.com, you're not going to be able to put anything in there. So now that we've kind of addressed some of these other things, I would begin to turn my attention to this area right here. Because, when we look at a grid, I'm looking at this, I'm saying, oh, well, this should line up, and that's not lining up. It's really close to this. So why is that? Is this a situation where these need to, these elements should line up above, and, Vox.com gets its own, it gets the full length, and then the time symbol gets weekly, and then these things are, it's subscribe, maybe what I'm talking about here is I'm talking about bringing this up. I'm talking about bringing this down. I'm talking about, and then I'm talking about, if subscribed is over to the right, these icons are over to the left, giving you some space to like not accidentally hit your finger or not accidentally press. Maybe these are at the top, and this information is based here but stacked, so you've got room. Okay, and then you give this this intro a little more space. I'm going to undo all that because I don't want to enforce upon you my designs. I want you to come up with a better usage of the space. And I think once you see once you see this, that this guide, that none of this lines up, that's when it's like, I gotta fix it. I gotta fix it because this isn't lining up. And most importantly, I'm not giving myself room to avoid an accidental click here. I'm not giving my information. This is not information that you get to cherry pick, okay? It's going to come from a source that you do not select, and that URL could be anything. So you're going to need something that's longer. Bonus is, while most URLs aren't supposed to wrap, you could also do something else. You could like have this here and have this over here, and I hate that, and that could give you almost all of this, because this is, what is this, weekly, daily, monthly, that bi-weekly, that's as long as that's ever going to get. So then you'd have all this space to run. You'd still have to figure out something to do here, all right? But that's fine. Overall though, I think that you are talented. You can come through and figure this out and do something really good with it. So that's what I want to see. I want to see this area just rethought. All right. And that's the, people ask this question all the time. They'll say, gosh, every time I show this to you, you point a different thing out. Is there ever a point when you stop nitpicking? And the answer is no, absolutely not. I'm going to nitpick till we're blue in the face, because I'm wanting to continually push this forward. I'm not nitpicking because I don't like you or something. I'm nitpicking because I know this could be better. Every single design we've ever created could be better. All right. When do you stop working on something? It's like an oil painting. When I run out of time, I stop working on it when I'm out of time. Okay. I've got, that's a terrible way to put it, because frankly, you're not supposed to do that on client projects. When clients pay you to do a certain amount of work, and then once that's done, you should put your tools down. But I have a really hard time doing that, and the reason I have a hard time doing that is I like design. I nerd out about this stuff. Similarly, like the spacing on this icon is driving me nuts. It doesn't quite line up. It's too close to, and I look at it and like, okay, so now it's a little better. But what would be even better? That. It's just like, how can, and the reason is I want it to share a similar size with this, and going wide doesn't work because I can't get the even spacing around. So little things like that. I'm going to undo it, and then you're going to see it, and you're going to be like, oh yeah, that would drive you nuts. Okay. So focus in on the, you're applying to an internship at a very prestigious company. Focus in on the details. Okay. Cannot, that's a very minor thing. Can't let this stand. Okay. Let's come in, go further. Oh, I love it. You remove the line work. That feels infinitely better. Again, this is where we, I get the nerd out and talk about, is this, where is the grid? Oh, the grid's over the whole thing. Let's look at the new modal card. Let's hide that grid. Come on. There is a grid here, and I want to get to it. I'm not sure where it's at. Oh, yeah, I see that one. Anyway, my point is this symbol. It's not, the triangle is off, and I don't really feel like it needs to be that big. It also, now you've got pretty good spacing all the way around, and when you zoom out, you still see a play button. If you're gonna stay here with it, at least make it to where the edges are similar. The space between each of the points. But I would come down with that so that and I think that might even still be my issue here, is that this triangle is just it's just pushing on the innards of the circle itself. Like, do you see the difference between the two? Like, one feels like it's really tense and angry because it's like pushing it, like it feels like it's trying to escape the box, and the other one looks like it's playing nicely with the box. Just my 2 cents. Let's continue. Okay. Okay. So this is the area that, and what's funny? Oh, this is so funny. Think about what we talked about just a moment ago about giving this room to run. Okay? Look at your design solution here. Look at what you did with the same basic information over here. You could flip weekly over here and have this go all the way across all by itself and be just fine. Just as you already have over here. You've already done this. Like, there is a design pattern that you already have that exists in your current thing. Like, use that. Okay? Yeah, I'm going to go back just because I want to show where you were a day ago with this. Like, let's just focus in on this was you a day ago. Yeah, the same view a day ago. Well, actually, no, actually, you were over here a day ago. The same view a day ago to now. That's so much better. Yeah. That's not good. Okay? This way better. All right? So I feel like if nothing else, you've made big strides here. I want to see the same big strides applied here. I would encourage some spacing over here as well. This design pattern is also going to impact this podcast guests page, because you're going to take that same design and bring it down. This would be a great place to come through and create a component so that you can reuse this thing over and over and over again. Because, again, it shows up on a lot of screens. I'd do the same thing here. I'd create a component out of it. But that's where I'm at with it, James. I do feel like this is moved forward, but it's moved forward to the point that we can now really start to talk about space and usage and things like that. So I'm going to leave it there. I think you know what to do. All right. So let's take a look at some of these portfolios, because I had Well, yeah, I've pulled. Well, let's see here. I got Nicholas, and I've got Madeline, and I've got Tegel. I could have sworn that I had a couple of others. I want to go get those really fast because they are. Yeah, it's weird. They loaded over here. It's so bizarre. So I'm gonna load them into the same view, so I have them. I'm not interested in closing these at all because I'm going to be using these in an hour or so for our drive through the Valley of Portfolio Potluck. Um, so let's see here. And yes, I've got a lot of tabs open, and I do apologize. It's crazy. I did not ask for another tab. Okay, we're gonna close this one down. It's on its own screen for no reason whatsoever. Okay. So this is taking just a second to load. It's not her site. I swear. It's the fact that I'm live streaming and I've got too many tabs open. All right, so we've got there's 5 portfolios I'm gonna compare here. I got Nicholas, I've got Madeline, I've got Tegel, I've got Christine, and I'm gonna say Ajuna. I'm guessing that is correct. No, I'm not trying to mispronounce. I'm just really terrible. I suck at words. Is that a proper way to put it? But right away, I'm just gonna kind of roll through and take a peek here. So it looks like, it's so funny. I know I've written some of the exercises. Some of you are signing up for this, and you've been a part of a program that I might have created work for in the past. Some of these places I haven't worked at since 2018. Other people like Nicholas here. Nicholas is gotta be, Nicholas has got to be somebody coming in from Chicago. I see a bunch of Cars.com work, and I know that their team is based here. So that gives me an idea of where you're coming from. There's a little bit of information design in here. Okay. Interesting. All right. So I'm getting like with Nicholas, I'm getting a wide breadth of. There's like a lot of stuff here. So that's interesting to me. I want to dive in because I'm seeing just a ton of work. I don't necessarily I'm going to click on the Toyota Camry. I'm not sure if I'm going to get like a case study or I'm going to get. Yeah, I'm getting screens basically. You've got this in a PDF form. I don't necessarily know why it's in PDF form. I'm sure I'm going to find out. Okay, so okay. Yeah, this is cool. I don't know why. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world that it's in PDF, but I'm not going to print this out. Um, I'm not going to be able to read this on my phone. I'm gonna have to circle back to it. It seems to me like you could, you could make a very simple, like one column design with some images that could go. Like you've got this. Like why isn't this all just here in the same spot? I know this is a Cargo Collective site. I'm curious if I inspect element. I don't. I recognize Cargo Collective, but I've never used it, so I'm guessing this is like a portfolio builder of sorts. I'm just kind of digging into like how this has been created. And anytime I have a curiosity about this, I always just go, oh, you know what? I'm just going to go take a look at this. Cargo Collective. Excellent. Let's go take a peek. What is Cargo Collective? Cargo.site. And Cargo is slowly loading. But your project's on the web. Okay, got it. That's fun. Not a big deal. So this is like some, portfolio builder thing. That's fine. I'm not a big fan of having things in PDF form. I would just rather have the stuff where I can read it, to be completely honest with you. But it's fine. You are giving me a sense of your overall breadth of your design work. Here I've got a bit longer of an intro, so it's showing me some work. But I'm not right away driven to go dig into a lot of PDFs. Okay. So the next one I'm going to go to is Madeline, and Madeline is, I know this because I've been to Athens, Ohio a few times, having spoken at the University of Ohio, and I remember Madeline. So hi, good to see you. So aspiring graphic designer with specialization in marketing. How do we get to your work? And this is on myportfolio.com, so I'm guessing it's kind of the same thing. So when we're looking at this, okay, add Adobe Portfolio. Okay, so this is another builder site, just fine. I'm not sure how to, I need you to like connect these up so I can make it to this page without you specifically sending me to the work page, because if I click home, I'm trapped. How did I get back there? I don't know. So you had the Ridges project. I actually came down for the Visual Discovery Conference or something. I honestly forget what that was. But we went to the Ridges. This was like a Visual Discovery Conference. So this is like a YouTube video. What's interesting, Madeline, is I know that the video, if I just hit play, it's a 7-minute video, and there's lots of drone footage. And I think Ryan Sparrow from Ball State was flying the drones. I still would like for you to include some sort of information, much like Nicholas has done over here. Give me a little bit of information about what I'm looking at. If Nicholas had just sent over, hey, here's the Spark design system, and which is great, cars.com created a design system, I would have no idea what this was if Nicholas hadn't included this bit of text telling me, hey, here's this design system. And even though it's in a PDF and I don't like the PDFs, I got enough information, as I refer to people who come into portfolios and they just kind of read the first paragraph and they go, oh, okay, that's cool. As a grazer, they're just kind of coming through, getting a broad swath of it. They're just going on by. They're not sticking around too long. They're just grazing. Okay. You've got a video, but I've kind of got to watch the video to get a sense of what it is that I'm seeing, and I still don't know. Like, what did you shoot the video? Did you do the voiceover for the video? What did you do on the video? Um, I know you did this infographic, which was one of my favorite things that I saw. This is Madeline. Madeline went through, and she was in a sorority in Athens, and she went through, and they've got these. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with sororities, but they got these big pictures on the wall or houses where it's got like all the pictures of all the sorority sisters each year. It's like a yearbook photo or something. And she went through and reimagined herself in every era. So she shows herself in the, like, what would 1910 Madeline look like versus 1970 Madeline. You get the feathered hair, and it's like a really cool project, really cool. Unfortunately, Madeline, when I'm looking at this, and this is great, I it's some of the stuff's so funny, but I still don't know what you did because you haven't included any content about it. So you're showing the work, that's great, but this reeks of old school. The last 10, 20 years of design has been, hey, let me show you all the stuff, and then you don't tell me anything about it. Okay, so I really want to see more. I need to see at least something, because I can click all around this and it doesn't pull me forward. I don't really know what I'm looking at. Okay. Compare that with Tejal. So Tejal is one of my students at New Pragmatic, and Tejal's been working on a lot of projects. So she's got Idea Board and Bergen Bread, and then City Bus kind of drug in there a little late. Companies she's worked with, she's done freelance video work for quite a while. That's how you end up working for the NFL Network and Oprah Winfrey and CNBC, etc. But I would say that the zooms here, Tejal, are a bit aggressive. And I say that, Tejal's a student of mine, but I haven't backed away from her work in a long time to look at it as a whole. But when you get into Bergen Bread, let's view the case study. This is a legit case study. It's taken a minute to load. I scrolled way too fast. She's got a video, but she's also got the, Madeline, to your Ridges project. She's got a video as well, but she's written a little bit kind of telling me what this is, giving me an overview, telling me who the team was, how long they worked on it. It won awards. Surprise, Tejal's amazing. She shows this was all spurred off a previous video that she did. So she takes me through, she takes you through what the challenges were, time management, what the process was, what the visual direction was. So this is if you will, a mood board, how it took shape, started storyboarding it. So these are actual visuals from the video production. And then, this is kind of loading slow. But again, I've got a lot of tabs open. But these are videos. So this is stop motion in action, and it should play in line. And this is what it became. So you get the idea. It's way more robust than I thought it was. Anyway, iterations on the opening shot. So this is how it changed over time. And that's really, when I come back over here, Nicholas, to Nicholas's piece, and I realize at some point I feel like I'm talking like I'm doing portfolio potluck right now. That's not what I'm doing right now. I just want to check in here. Yeah, we've got James. When I'm looking at this, I have to get into the PDF to see how this thing evolved. and there's nothing keeping you from just doing that in HTML and CSS. So this is kind of the world that you're in. Like, Nicholas, I think you've got a lot more experience, but it's not presented in a way that I can just get into it. I've got to like go over another hurdle to get to the stuff. And here, if I decided, hey, I'm on my phone, and I'm going to put this in mobile view real quick. I'm on my phone and I want to just read about this case study. Well, I can do that. There's nothing about there's nothing about this that I have to go escape into a PDF and pinch and zoom and all that stuff. So, the PDF thing is fine, but you're going to lose some people there. All right. I really think that if you can just let's get it out of the PDF, use this as the intro, that's fine. But I should let me scroll down and let me see the rest of it. Let's go over here to Christine. So Christine, UX designer and researcher from Boston, creating products which delight and empower people. Techstars Boston, Signify, which is Philips Lighting. I like it that she's broken down hey, I do graphic design, I do coding, here's my about me. So she really quickly is kind of saying, I've got work here and I've got work there, and if you want to know more about me, go over here. My UX UI work. So she's got and I love this. It tells me right away what she's done. User research, wireframing, UX UI design, user research, wireframing, user interviews, wireframing, UX and UI design, stakeholder research, UI design, usability testing, UX and UI design. So quite a bit of work here. I am curious. I just want to jump in and inspect this really fast. So this is a Wix site. I can tell that right away. It's That's interesting because she's got coding here, and I'm just curious. It looks like that's just going to take me to. Okay, so that's a page on her site called GitHub. This looks a lot like BusyBus. My introduction to coding began with LiveJournal, a blogging website from the 90s. I began tinkering with code. Today my coding is more focused around user-centered design. Currently I am developing my skills in HTML and CSS. Good. I am at the beginning of my journey, but my goals as a coder are to develop skills which empower me to create interactive and user-centered designs. So what's great here, Crystal, is that while I immediately didn't recognize you as a boot camp student because of the amount of work that I saw on the homepage, the link to coding kind of took me there, and suddenly there was this fight between the Wix site and the coding, and then when I read the coding, the Wix site makes sense because it's you're getting started on this journey. So I appreciate you being upfront about that, but I wonder if there's enough here to really even warrant the tab. So your graphic design work. So this is Youth Enrichment Services, Girl Develop at Boston. Okay, so like the coding tab, this really isn't all that deep. It's frankly taking away from, if I go back to the home, it's taking focus away from these projects, I think, which are the thrust of what you're doing, to the point that I would almost get rid of this and focus on maybe put a link to your About Me in here. Like, I'm Christine. You click it, and it takes you to the About Me. And let's see what the About Me is. Okay. So you're in. So you've jumped into information design at Bentley University. Okay. Um, After leading a website redesign at the nonprofit I was working for, Youth Enrichment Services. Okay, so now these things are all kind of fitting together. You went through the UX UI course. I wrote most of that. Again, that was all the Thinkful thing. That was all based off some the 2016 launch of designer track from Block. So Block, Thinkful 8 Block, and whatever. So I think this gives a pretty good idea of how you got to now. What I'm really interested in, and it's something that I've spoken at some length about. If you've been around the new Pragmatic program at all, I want to in that About You, I want to know what you've learned. There's like all sorts of things from the various the various projects that you've done that are this growth moment, if you will. So she's built a restaurant kiosk, which is fun. I've got a kiosk actual prototyping video that is a kiosk, but it's like for a grocery store. If we go through, yeah, that's a graphic. We could make this better, even though, I mean, if this is in HTML CSS, it'd be a little easier to control. But I would I want this to like align with that arrow. I want to be able to read these. Yeah, so it's kind of, this is interesting. I'm not sure why this is over off to the side, but it is interesting to see like the level of, the fact that you've got your Figma prototype in here. That's nice. But really the core is always this lessons learned bit. Okay. But that's buried. I gotta like really dive in here. That's something, I talked to Tedral about the same thing. If we come out of this for a second and, I get rid of that. Tedral's got the what I learned as well. And it's always the key takeaways. But Tedral's begun wrapping those into the About page, which I like. I think it's a stronger usage. I design, I animate, and code, and her story, it moves around a bit because she's changed what she does. She went from acting to motion graphics and video productions, and she's won these awards. It's never a bad thing to show off your trophies, people. Just for the record. But even in Tedral's case, I want to talk about how the projects have changed you. Okay, and we have those opportunities. We have those opportunities, and you've already written about them. It's just finding a way to organize them, and I would really just elevate that. I'm going to look at Ajuna as well while we're here. So Ajuna, you've got the one project. It looks like it's pretty early in your process. Let's view your case study. Let's take a look. This is the Your Space app. This is Blockbox. We've all had everybody who's went through the program's done this application. Tedral and Crystal or Christine, sorry, did the Busy Bus. Yeah, Christine did the Busy Bus app. So I'm seeing similar things here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's get down to the what I learned. Where is it be? Where it be? Takeaways. Yeah, so you've got that takeaways buried right now. Let's go into your about. Now, this is very much the story of you. And I don't mind the story of you. I wouldn't start up here. The fun facts about you, not the important thing. I love gardening and I love cooking too, but like that's very secondary. I would move that down. I would really start this on my journey into design. But I still would like, you've got those takeaways. Like, what did you learn? What did you learn as you were getting into this? Okay? Focus on that. Like, get that into this about page. All right. And that's where I'm going to kind of wrap it up at today. It's always good to kind of see what these projects are like. I'm going to, give, if I had to put these all side by side, I'm gonna give the win to Tegel. Tegel's, I really do like a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing over here. But the format makes me fight to get to it, and in that fight, I would say that Nicholas has some interesting work, but I got to fight to get to it. So I don't care for the format. Tegel, she's showing everything. I just want a few more projects there. And let's wrap it up there. So we'll come back to this in a bit, because today at noon, it's 2 hours from now, it'll be time for the feedback loop.